We are just getting started. We're going to raise the minimum wage for working families. We're going to pass the Women's Equality Act because discrimination and inequality against women stops in New York State.
Fascinating night in New York yesterday. And the statewide races, Democrats may have won here, but what happened in the state Senate here certainly will change the dynamic. We'll also get a little bit later in some of those very fascinating House races that went down to the wire in certain cases in New York. Well, Governor Cuomo, he won. The question is, was the margin what he expected? What would the betting line be? At the end of the day, he won by 13 points. And he didn't hesitate to rattle off last night sharing the list of goals that he's slating here for New York. He'd be his Republican challenger, Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino, with Cuomo getting nearly 54% of the vote, while Astorino got over the 40% mark at 41%, and Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins got a little bit less than some people projected, but still bringing in roughly 5%. Now, Cuomo's win did not come without controversy. Before all was said and done, Dominic, you were there, and before we even get into the drama that was the Sheridan, internally, what was the number they wanted to get to last night? I know they wanted to win first and foremost, but did they have a number in mind, a spread? I think they wanted more than 13 points, right?
Well, obviously they wanted to do as good as his father has done, Mario Cuomo, in some of his past elections, but it was tough as nails to get a number out of them. They are on message for whatever reason, fear of the governor, but we could not get that answer out of them last night. But what was interesting, Richard, he may have cruised to re-election, but it is commonly known in political circles the governor does not play well with others. Last night appeared to be a perfect example, even though they shared the same Democratic ticket. Governor Cuomo, State Controller Tom DiNapoli, and State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman last night very much played into. Apparently, Cuomo views the fellow Democrats, DiNapoli and Schneiderman, as political foes. There was no sharing the victory stage at all last night between the three statewide elected officials. Schneiderman did not come out until Cuomo was long gone, along with most of the crowd and, of course, the cameras. But DiNapoli, poor State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli, for whatever reason, he did not appear on the stage at all last night. His victory speech was forced to be held in another room of the hotel on another floor, way away from the glare of all the media attention. By the way, Cuomo was joined on stage by his girlfriend and his daughters, as you can see there. But even the mention of his father, Democratic icon Mario Cuomo, did not come until the very end of the speech.
I want you to give a big, big New York welcome to Governor Mario Matthew Cuomo.
It was nice to see the governor and former First Lady Matilda Cuomo, but you know, maybe Tom DiNapoli, the state controller, gets justed in the end. He did not address the big crowd, but DiNapoli had the best night of the three Democrats, winning his reelection with approximately 60% of the vote. Richard?
All right, let's bring in our guest, Dominic, here. We're joined by Ed Cox, chairman of the New York State Republican Committee, and we're going to get to the state Senate, which is where the win happened. But just look at the statewide races. Did you go into last night thinking that you had a chance to win one of the three?
I did think we had a chance because there was going to be a low turnout because of the extreme negativity of the governor's campaign, where he dumped $45 million of negative advertising on Rob Astorino. And it was really outrageously negative. And it's very hard for Rob to reply because he didn't have the funds to reply.
We had last night sitting in that chair, among others, Steve Levy, your good friend, the former Suffolk County executive, who you tried to bring into the fold here to run, to be the representative for the Republican Party, Democrat turned Republican. But we talked openly. It's been since 2001 since a Republican has won statewide office, governor, AG, controller, U.S. Senate. It hasn't happened. He said, hey, you think it's hard? Look at the registration numbers, look at the money numbers, look at the infrastructure. How hard is it?
Let's not overdo that. Let's not overdo that.
Well, the math is the math.
But we had a governor who his third term ended in 2006. So they've had the governorship for 2 terms now. And this is seen as a second term for Cuomo, not a third term for a Democratic governor. But it is a third term that is coming up for a Democratic governor. And I think third terms are very, very risky. And I think this governor is going to have a hard time. And just a very interesting factoid here. Andrew Cuomo won with the fewest number of votes since 1930, when there are only 12 million inhabitants in New York
We're going to
State.
get to the stuff you want to talk about. But certainly, it's the state Senate last
I mean,
night.
this was not an
Republican.
enthusiastic.
But I don't disagree with you. But my question is, at the end of the day, you guys want to win statewide seats here. We've seen the Patakis of the world win. It's happened. We've also seen senators, but remember the Javits of the world. Does the Republican Party in New York have to say, let's deal with the world the way it really is here? You need to, at least socially, a Republican be for gay marriage, and he can still have a chance to get through the gauntlet of the primary. A Republican can be for abortion and a woman's right to choose, and that won't be a disqualifier in the party. Have we reached a point, Ed,
Richard,
here where
you're
maybe...
going off on issues, and let me just...
No, I'm doing the math. Since 2001, we haven't a statewide Republican.
Let me come back to I mean, this... Governor Cuomo has been pulling levers of power in this state since he ran his father Mario Cuomo's campaigns in the 1980s. He knows how to manipulate power, political power in the state. He had 4 years to put together a re-election campaign. Rob Astorino had 9 months. He did a terrific job to get over 40%. That's the bottom line. It's not the issues that you're referring to.
I'm just talking about you guys. Listen, I'm not jumping on the issues, but at the end of the day, he was defined as somebody out of touch, Rob Astorino, on social issues with New Yorkers. As you said, a lot of money was spent on this. You know the plurality of New Yorkers believe in same-sex marriage and choice and the rest. I'm just saying to you, can a Republican get through the primary process and be the nominee and be moderate on social issues? Can you?
Look, Chris Christie won election in New Jersey, one of the most socially liberal jurisdictions in the United States in 2009. He won re-election 4 years later. Rob Astorino won here in socially liberal Westchester County and won re-election 4 years later, even though he's a social conservative. The main issues are the issues that we were pushing in the campaign, and that is that New York's economy is failing. We are the least business-friendly state, the highest tax state, and those are the issues that the people of New York care about. And that's why Rob was able to get over 40% against this Cuomo juggernaut, which, by the way, is going to have a huge risk of crashing and burning after this election.
But your gubernatorial candidate lost with those being the big issues, lost by 13 points, and everybody seems to agree that if the president was in a stronger position or if nationally Democrats were doing better, that margin probably would have been a lot bigger. Are you concerned that just relying on those issues isn't enough for Republican statewide candidates?
Here in New York, those issues, those fiscal issues, those pro-growth issues are the most important issues for the people of New York State. Because it's all a question of good jobs here in New York State.
Okay, let's talk about something which I know you will like, which is about the state Senate here. Republican picking up seats. We talked quite a bit about this last night with a lot of guys that were formerly in the Assembly and the Senate. Do we know yet where Jeff Klein's going to caucus with, Dom? Did you get a sense down there at the Sheridan that there's any clarity where he and the IDC is going to go?
None. That's the million-dollar question. As a matter of fact, I didn't even see Mr. Klein at Mr. Cuomo's headquarters. And so that's not to say that he wasn't there, but it's going to be very interesting. I cannot answer that question tonight. I don't think anybody in the political circles can accurately answer it outside of Mr. Klein.
Do you have any sense?
It is a different political equation than it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, no one knew who would be in control of the Senate. The Amador seat was still up for grabs. In the end, we lost it by 17 votes, but they made that deal when no one knew what the outcome is. Now we know what the outcome is. Republicans are going to have the majority in the Senate.
Do we agree just philosophically?
I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a different negotiation.
Forget about right or left. Do we agree philosophically? I know some people argue, and I think fairly, that the last 4 years have been productive in terms of on-time budgets. Legislation's been passed. Republicans like at least the fiscal policies for the government. They're not crazy about the social policies, and conversely for Democrats. But the idea that the IDC, or whatever group you want to call them, waits till after the election day when people voted for them for a certain party line, and then they decide which way to caucus with depending on who's going to get the bigger power play out of it. there's something just don't feel right about it. Do you agree with me?
That's the way it's done in parliamentary democracy.
I know, but we're not in Europe. We're in the United States. I mean, we all made fun of Pedro Espada. Me, other than Andrew, probably I did it louder than anybody. But that's what Espada
But Richard,
did.
we're talking about the legislature, and the legislature is a parliamentary body, and people are going to decide who they want to work with.
You don't think it's
so I
distasteful
don't,
at
I don't
all?
think this is going to be the same kind of
I agree with you,
coalition
but you don't think
as
it's a
2
little
years ago,
distasteful?
because it's going
You
to be
wait
done
till
in a
after the
different,
election day
in a
to pick
different
a party?
political structure.
It is extremely distasteful, and it would seem to me that it would be borderline criminal for what they're doing. They're cutting the best deals, not based on their constituents, but what's best on it for them.
Yeah,
and it just
you
seems
can
horrible.
make the argument that by doing that, they're also enhancing the position of their constituents, because
Really?
Jeff Klein can say, if I've got more power, I can do more for the,
You know
the
the
people of
point,
my
Andrew,
district.
I haven't heard somebody make, but I think it's fair? Why doesn't every single legislator now all of a sudden decide, you know what? Why does Klein get to call the shots? I'm going to decide I'm a free agent. And why, if you feel that way, run as an independent. Don't run as a Democrat. Don't run as a Republican. Say that you don't know who you are politically, and at least be upfront about it. They wait till after the election to then be able to say, let's see who gives me the best deal, and then I'll go caucus with them.
That's what it comes down
To
to.
me, this isn't a Republican or a Democrat thing. It goes for all of them. It's just, you mentioned it's parliamentary, but you know what?
Richard, you're assuming there's going to be a deal. I don't know there's going to be a deal. It's a different...
Well, we've seen how it's worked for the last 4 years.
As I said before, that was a different
right.
situation 2 years ago than it is now.
Okay.
It is absolutely clear now who the majority is going to be.
We had some drama with some of the House races in New York in terms of up to the 11th hour, but didn't compare to what happened in Connecticut here. When we come back, we're going to head over there. Well, we finally got a gubernatorial winner here. It took an extra day, but we'll talk about that, and also we'll talk about New Jersey as well before we get to the House races in the region. Stay with us.